According to Mike Puma of the New York Post, the New York Mets are showing strong interest in right-handed pitcher Lucas Giolito. In this video, I'm going to talk about Lucas Giolito, my thoughts on the kind of impact that he could have on the New York Mets team, which desperately needs some more starting pitchers after missing out on Yamamoto. If you like this video, talking about the latest Mets news, rumors, and guys that fit this team, make sure to hit the like button at the ballpark. Slide into the comments section. What are your thoughts on Lucas Giolito and if the Mets should pursue him and what kind of contract you would be willing to offer him? And if you want to make my day, help the channel grow, you can subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. And to those who are subscribed already, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, tell a stranger, tell a guardian, tell a pair of white socks, make a Google account for them, whoever it takes. It is always greatly appreciated. I definitely appreciate the support I've gotten this past week on the Yamamoto video, on the Christmas wish list. Speaking of the Christmas wish list, Lucas Giolito was actually one of the guys that was on it. I talked about him a little bit in the video. He wasn't at the top of the list, but he was maybe a little bit of the stocking stuffer. He was on the lower tier of guys that want to have on the New York Mets, and there's a couple of things to like about Lucas Giolito. For me, the big thing is that he is 29 years old. And I've talked about it constantly, but I just think it is important mentioning because of the past few years with the New York Mets, especially with starting pitchers. We've seen them go for the veterans, the guys who, yes, they're going to the Hall of Fame, but it's not because of what they're going to do this year. The guys like Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, pitchers that are near their 40s just don't have it anymore. Their body is breaking down. Their stuff is breaking down. And you saw what happened. It just didn't work out. So I want to see the Mets aim younger. They started doing that when they got Luis Severino and Lucas Giolito. Same age. So 29 years old. You definitely have to like that. But what I personally like about Lucas Giolito more than Luis Severino is the durability of Giolito. The fact that this guy year in, year out is giving you close to 30 starts. That's exactly what you want for a team. And that's exactly what this Mets team needs. Obviously, the Mets need help in the starting rotation, but the thing that also goes against them is the fact that their depth is not great. It's not like they have a bunch of guys in the minor leagues who could fill in for a starting pitcher if they get hurt, especially with the injury to David Pearson. Not that he was a great option, but still, that's one less option that the Mets have right now. So the Mets need guys who can stay on the field. This way they don't have to use the guys that they have in the minors who just aren't going to make it in the majors. High upside for a guy like Lucas Giolito where maybe he's a mid-rotation piece, but the fact that he's a guy that's out there every 5 days, as long as he's keeping you in games, that's really all you could ask for. And I would hope that the Mets would kind of go the one-year deal here, maybe with a team option for the second year to really kind of sweeten the deal. Because with Lucas Giolito, the thing that goes against him is just the fact that he hasn't been very good these past couple of years. 2 years ago was a down season for Lucas Giolito, and then this past season, he was good in the first half with the White Sox. Then once he got traded, things did not go well. In the New York Post, Mike Puma talks about the divorce that Lucas Giolito went through. Maybe that had some kind of impact as to how he was able to perform on the field, but both with the Angels and with the Cleveland Guardians, he struggled. And what's more concerning to me is the fact that he struggled with the Guardians. That's a team that is really known for their pitching. You look at the past few years with them historically, they always have really good starting pitchers. I mean, they just seem like they know exactly what they're doing. Even without Mickey Callaway, obviously, they're still able to put together good starting pitchers all the time. So they only had a very short time to work with Giolito. The fact that they couldn't fix him, that's a little concerning. The only other organizations that you feel really good about potentially fixing pitchers is the Tampa Bay Rays and the Milwaukee Brewers. Hopefully with David Stearns being here, the New York Mets can be like the Brewers now, where they are able to get these pitchers who were good once upon a time and they able to kind of tinker with them and get them to be effective again. But one of the other good things about Lucas Giolito is that he still was able to get a good amount of strikeouts this past season, even with the struggles that he had. And strikeouts, like I say, it's very important because it is the best defense. This way you guys don't have to make any plays in the field, don't need to catch anything, don't need to throw anything. Just make the guy miss. Just catch him looking. Just be a good pitcher. You know, don't rely on the defense behind you to bail you out because, again, we'll see what the full lineup construction is. We have some holes in the outfield. We don't know who's going to be the third baseman. So it is a little questionable as far as how the Mets are going to be in the field. Giolito is a guy that if he didn't struggle these past couple years, he would be in line for a very big contract because if you're a free agent under 30 and you're a starting pitcher, you know you're going to get good money. And the fact the guy's been durable, hasn't had injuries. I mean, he would have everything that you could possibly want out of a starting pitcher. Now, obviously, it's a lot tougher for him to get that big deal. So for the Mets, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to get a guy with high upside because, like I've talked about in the past couple of videos, since they were not able to get Yamamoto, don't overpay Blake Snell. Don't overpay Jordan Montgomery. stick with guys who you want. Don't be like, you know what, we didn't get Yamamoto, we have to be forced to just get someone else and give them the big contract that we really didn't think they were worth and we didn't really like them too much, but we don't have another choice. No such thing as a bad one-year deal. So you could do that with Giolito and see what you get out of him. And I think the change of scenery would be nice for him. Get out of the American League, get over to the National League. And this isn't the first time that Giolito will be in the National League. And it won't be the first time he's in the National League East. If you remember, he was a pretty big prospect for the Washington Nationals, where he actually, in his rookie year with the Nationals, I'm pretty sure the Mets actually did pretty decent against him, which is very surprising because anytime there's a rookie pitcher, you know that most times they're going to pitch well against the Mets. So the fact that he did made me think, wow, maybe this guy isn't any good. They went to Chicago. It turned out to be a pretty good pitcher. He was an all-star one year. He was in the Cy Young, top 10, top 15 a couple years. So that's why if you could get him, if everything breaks right for him to be around like your number 3 pitcher, and I kind of see the fact that he's able to make those 30 starts a year, we kind of call that the Chris Bassett role, where that is a guy who could just kind of be out 35 days, which is something that, you know, back then that should have been kind of the standard, the norm, but nowadays, with how many injuries you've seen, you cannot take that for granted. I mean, I think that is extremely important to have at least one guy in your rotation that could do that. I can't stress that enough. In the article, Mike Puma, he does mention some other starting pitching options for the Mets. He mentioned guys like Mike Clevenger, who is another guy who originally was with the Cleveland Guardians, pitched really well there, has kind of bounced around ever since, hasn't been quite the same, but he still had a decent year. The thing to not like about Mike Clevenger is his age, when he's around 33 years old. And the other big thing with Clevenger is, you know, he had the domestic violence. He ended up not being disciplined by the MLB, but it feels like you're always reading something about him, and he just doesn't seem like a great guy. Not the best guy to have in your clubhouse right now, especially with a rookie manager. You don't know how he's going to be able to handle any kind of drama, any kind of tension, any guys who aren't too great. One of the other guys I was mentioned in the article, Sean Manaea. He's a guy who's a little more intriguing because a few years ago when the Mets made the Chris Bassett trade, speaking of him, the couple other guys that were out there from Oakland that seemed to be available were Frankie Montas, who ended up coming to New York with the Yankees, didn't go too well, and then Sean Manaea, who did bounce around with San Diego, with San Francisco, has been able to be the same guy that he was in Oakland, but still there is something there, hopefully, and he's a guy that, if you miss out on Lucas Giolito, I'm not totally against Sean Manaea getting a one-year deal either. Again, because of his age, and you just feel like maybe he could find something in because he was pretty good a few years ago. And the last guy Puma mentions, Hyun-Jin Ryu. I mean, that is definitely a name from the past because this was a guy who would be battling it out with Jacob deGrom for the Cy Young Award. He's coming off Tommy John surgery. I mean, he was able to come back this past season, pitched all right, but again, he's a guy that's now up there in age. I believe he's around 37. So again, ideally, I like to stay away from that, but on a one-year deal, you can't totally hate it when, again, the starting pitching options out there aren't too great right now. Hopefully the Mets get Imanaga. I mean, the left-hander from Japan, that would definitely be a nice addition because he's younger and I feel like he'd be a better fit. But there's going to be other teams involved. You might not be able to get him. Maybe some team overpaid. You really just never know. And does he even want to come here? I mean, that's always the other big question mark. You know, you could be interested in someone, but if the person doesn't want you back, it just becomes kind of creepy if you keep going after it. So if the Mets do end up getting Lucas Giolito, it's going to be another great test for David Stearns. As of right now, having 2 projects to work with Luis Severino and Lucas Giolito, trying to find something and try to get those guys back on track, it's going to be very interesting. See if there's something that the Mets will end up doing in the future under Stearns' tenure of trying to take those flyers, those young guys with high upside, trying to get them back on track. So I am very curious to see what happens here if the Mets actually do end up getting him. So again, let me know your thoughts on Giolito. What other players the Mets should target? What other videos you want to see from me in the future? If I don't see you guys before the end of the New Year, obviously Happy New Year. Once again, thank you for all the support. Hope you guys enjoyed. And until the next one, be safe, be smart, and let's go Mets.